Hello, you're watching The Final Whistle with me, Kenzie Benali.
And me, Steve Forbes.
And welcome back to St Mary's Stadium, where the atmosphere has been absolutely electric this evening, because despite going down to 10 men in the first half, Southampton battled it out to take a point from our last match of 2021. Plenty to discuss from that one. So let's welcome back Dean Hammond and Adam Leach. Dean, we'll come to you first. We spoke pre-match about Ralph's brave team selection, and it's paid off here.
100% paid off, Kenzie. I think for the first 40 minutes of the first half, Southampton were superb. The better team played with such energy and intensity, I think is the right word. Didn't really allow Tottenham to settle. Played really high up the pitch and pressed Tottenham. Tottenham couldn't get out at times. Scored a fantastic goal from James Ward-Prowse and fully deserved a lead up to that point. Tottenham got back into the game, probably second attack that they had in the first half. And then, the penalty and the sending off changed the game really. But in the second half, I think, following on from the West Ham performance, I think the Southampton player today showed a real maturity in terms of being disciplined in that second half, different approach to the game, knowing that instead of being able to press, they're going to have to keep a shape. And I think they've done that brilliantly today. Some really good individual performances, a change of shape, but I think the commentators mentioned it. It looked like Southampton had been playing that shape for a number of games. Looked really, really comfortable. It looked fluid. There was a good understanding between the players. Almost won it at the end with Brozier coming on and getting that opportunity. But some good saves from Fraser Forster. I think he's been great since he's come back in over the last two games, which is good to see. And a good defensive performance from front to back. So, yeah, really pleasing and another really valuable point. And 4 points out of these two fixtures is really impressive. And now they can go into the Newcastle game with real confidence. And I think the good thing, you saw really good spirit today between the players, and that's really important.
Absolutely, it certainly is. And it's fair to say that a change of shape hasn't always gone our way in the past. But Dean, Adam, as Dean said there, it certainly worked in our favour today. How did you rate Southampton's overall performance?
Absolutely superb. I mean, to a man, they were excellent. They worked absolutely tirelessly. And it's not just occasionally you get those sort of results, and on paper it looks like our team's gone down to 10 men, and then they kind of find a way to raise their game, and the opposition, they don't quite work out how to play 10 men who are basically camped on the edge of their own penalty area. But if anybody looks at the result on paper and thinks that's what happened at St Mary's today, they'd be very much mistaken, because Saints were by far the better team when it was 11 against 11, and then they were easily equal to Spurs for the majority of the time when they only had 10 men. And yes, okay, they were a little more restricted going forward at that point, obviously, but they still showed intent going forward as well. It was a marvellous performance. And I think you have to give Ralph a lot of credit, because I think this felt like a bit of a gamble, this team selection, frankly. I wonder if he would even admit it was a little bit of a gamble. With a great win at West Ham and with a very winnable and important game against Newcastle either side of this fixture, I think Ralph decided that this was the game to kind of try something a bit different, to bring in fresh legs and just kind of see how it went. And I mean, he must be absolutely delighted, because it also, I'm sure, has strengthened his belief in the depth of his squad, that there are guys there that he can call upon and who can not only come in and fill in if somebody's injured, but look, that's almost, not completely, but almost different team there that he's put out in a different shape. And they were a match for a very, very good Tottenham team, a much improved Tottenham team who are going onwards and upwards and probably will continue in that direction. So a fantastic way to end the year with what I think, for the effort that they put in and the quality they showed, was a deserved point.
Yeah, it was great. I was buzzing up here with the fans. This place was rocking. It was so good. Dean, James Ward-Prowse, we spoke about him before the game and his goal contributions. He's now got 3 in his last 3 for Saints. We know what he can do from a dead ball, from a free kick. But this one from open play, I'd like to firmly put in the belter category.
You're right, Steve. It was a special strike. It really was. It came from the long throw from Salisu. James Ward-Prowse anticipating that the ball falling on the edge of the box, and it's a brilliant connection, fantastic technique, hits across the ball, so it's kind of spinning away from Lloris, the Tottenham goalkeeper, who doesn't see it, but I don't think he would save it anyway, and actually goes into the side netting. So it's brilliant technique, and we know James possesses that ability to score goals like that. Technically, he's sound, and I think he can get more and more goals. And like Adam's touched on before the show, we've probably been silently expecting a little bit more from James. He's been performing well, but maybe not to the standards that he'd set previously. But I think you're right. In the last 3 or 4 games, he's really stepped up as captain in his performances, led by example, and obviously his contributions with assists and goals as well. And I think his overall game today was very, very good. You saw him picking up second balls in the middle of the field when they were outnumbered at times. The way he pressed, the energy he pressed within that first half really set the tone, won a lot of balls back, interceptions. I think his possession stats will be very, very good as well. So a really good individual performance, a captain's performance, and led the team very, very well today. But a brilliant strike. It is a belter. You're right. It's a good strike. And I'm sure the fans and all of us will enjoy watching that over and over again.
Certainly did enjoy that one. Lots of comments coming into us already. Jean Young has said, brilliant goal. James Ward-Prowse, great saves from Forster as well. Walker-Peters, great as usual. Pete Batchelor's also got in touch. He says, brave, passionate, resolute, solid. Saints were amazing in the second half, exemplified by Carl Walker-Peters. What a star. And Richard's also left us this comment. He says, great result under the circumstances. Please do keep those comments coming into us. We love to hear from you. Adam, let's talk about the formation then, shall we? Because we weren't entirely sure how that would work when we first got the team news. Up until the red card, how did that formation work for you?
Superbly, Kenzie. I mean, I think Saints were comfortably the better team. I guess you almost felt like if you're going to be hypercritical, it's that same problem that they've had in the past. They've started a lot of games very well, and then they haven't converted enough chances. I mean, Saints perhaps should have been further ahead before the red card, I would argue, given how well they were playing. It was an interesting, not only the team that Ralph selected, but the way in which they played. It was a very brave way to play. They really pressed Tottenham high up the pitch. We spoke before the game about last season and the problems they had when they tried to play a very high defensive line against Tottenham. They didn't play such a high defensive line today, but it felt a little higher than they normally play. And they played it really, really well. You've got to give a lot of credit to the players that started the game because they were excellent in that period with 11 men. Very, very well worth a lead, and probably should have been even further ahead. Frankly, it was interesting, and I still feel 4-2-2-2 is their best formation week in, week out. But I think again, talking about the depth of the squad, but also in terms of the shape. I think this is another proof that Ralph will be able to kind of stick on the board on his managerial list, really, of we can do this. This is a shape we can play. We can execute this. And bearing in mind, he did it without kind of a few of his first choice players that you would think instinctively you wouldn't really want Jan Valery at centre half if you're playing against Tottenham and changing formation. You would really want Romeu in the team and probably one or two others as well. But look at what they did. It was fantastic, and a lot of credit to Ralph as well, because he must have worked on that not just in the last couple of days. They must have spent a lot of time on the training ground working in this formation for a sustained period of time to have been able to go out and execute it the way they did today. That wasn't just luck. That was obviously very well planned over a long period of time.
Well, Southampton did look fully in control of the game throughout that first half until late in the first half when Spurs levelled from the spot after Mohamed Salisu gave away a penalty and then was subsequently shown a second yellow card and was sent off. Dean, it kind of turned the game on its head a bit, and I suppose, what did you make of the tackle from Salisu?
A little rash, Steve. I think it actually recovered pretty well into that position, and I think he expected Song to shoot and not have that extra touch, and that's what caught him by surprise. I think the challenge is more of an attempt to block a shot, but very clever play from Song. And I think it's a yellow card. I don't think it's a red card, which was the right decision from the referee. I think maybe the first yellow card is I think there's a discussion on that. Possibly, I think that's a little bit harsh. So then it wouldn't be a sending off. It's definitely a penalty. I don't think there's any argument with that. And it was probably the first time, maybe the second time in the half where Southampton had just been split open. There was a bit of a too big a gap between Salisu and Perrault, and that gap just opened up for Song to run into. I think James Ward-Prowse to try to press Harry Winks, and Harry Winks had just got past him to be able to pass that ball in, and it didn't happen very much in that first half. So a very good pass, very good movement. But yeah, I think that will come with. Look, Salisu was brilliant in that first 40 minutes. He again, another player that set the tone. You know, every time Harry Kane got the ball, he was right beside Harry Kane. Every time Dele Alli got the ball, he was right beside Dele Alli. Didn't allow them to turn, didn't allow them to get facing forward. So he had a very impressive 40 minutes. I think with experience and what this will teach him, a lesson from this is when you are booked, it's just maybe you just have to adapt your game a little bit, maybe calm down a little bit, get into half time, settle yourself down, and then just understand that maybe you can't make them challenges, that you just get tight and just hold the play up and make them play backwards. But that will come. He's a young man. He's performing very, very well. I think he's been very impressive this year. So he's going to make mistakes. And it was a genuine attempt to try and block the ball. But it is a penalty. It is a yellow card. And unfortunately, it's a sending off.
Minutes into the second half when we thought Spurs had taken the lead. Once again, for the second time in just 3 days, it was VAR to the rescue. How did Southampton do for you defensively after that red card?
Well, I think they defended, manfully. Really, it was pretty brave stuff. There was some bodies on the line. A few of them got clattered or took a whack, trying to block shots. And actually, as a team, you have to applaud them. I mean, from front to back, Adam Armstrong was virtually playing as a sort of second left wing back almost at times in that second half. But it was worked absolutely tirelessly, and I think that was the key to it, really, that the really Spurs struggled because Saints continued to be able to press them with 10 men still. It wasn't a pure sit back, drop deep, just absorb the balls coming into the box. A little bit of that towards the end, but for most of it, they actually continued to play properly as if they had 11. But the amount of work it took to do that was quite extraordinary. And I guess that's another triumph for Ralph for having brought in fresh players, because I think had it not been fresh players, had it been the players that played against West Ham, probably actually that amount of effort would have been quite hard to sustain. But the fresh legs in the team really did it. And there was a few players there that really, I think, stepped up to the mark today, and a few that probably had a bit to prove as well. I think you look at your Perros of the world, and maybe Adam Armstrong and the effort and the shift he put in, Shane Long as well. And I think these guys go away with their heads held high today, and they've given Ralph quite a lot to think about, I would imagine. Maybe not for Newcastle, because maybe it's time to freshen it up again, given the efforts of today. But going forward, I think that there's some more opportunities for these guys than perhaps Ralph or they probably expected before this game.
Well, let's take a look at what the fans are saying watching along at home. And it seems Jan Valery has earned himself a lot of praise from those of you joining us on the show. James Dax got in touch. He says, massive well done to Valery today. Not played in a while, had to slot in at centre-back after the sending off. Played brilliantly, in my opinion. Stuart, hello to you. He says a big shout out to Jan as well. He said he thought he was excellent at centre-back. Well done to you. And Josh on Twitter also getting in touch. He says, huge credit to Jan Valery tonight. He didn't put a foot wrong as centre-back, proved all the doubters wrong after that performance. And a comment here from Dan too on Twitter. He says that was a great result. 4 points from the last 2 games is amazing. Every player worked hard for that. Selection headache time. Yeah, definitely. Well, speaking of Valery, let's continue that conversation on him, Dean. He was maybe a surprise selection in that starting 11, forming one of the back 3 centre-backs today for Saints. How would you, or how do you think he did today? Because it's maybe a position that he's not too comfortable at playing in.
Yeah, I think naturally he is a fullback, but I think if you look at it, and potentially it could be his best position. The physical stature of him, he's a big guy, so he can play in that position. He's pretty comfortable on the ball, and I think he played very, very well today. In the first half, he was actually an attacking threat. The overload when Southampton were able to switch the play, he became that extra man coming out from the back, and there was chance where he could have shot, where he was linking up play with Kyle Walker-Peters. So he performed very, very well. And, there was times in the second half where he didn't get the first contact, but he was making it difficult for the Tottenham players to get a clean contact when the ball was coming in the box. So positionally wise, he was very, very good. And I think the best moment for him was when Tottenham broke in the second half, and he was one-on-one. Song was one-on-one with him, and he made a fantastic block. He showed him down the line. He backed himself and blocked the shot from Song. So he had a very, very good performance, and they'd be really, really pleased with that. I'm proud of that as well, because he's not been around the first team. He's not had much. He hasn't had much of a chance, so he's had to be patient, and that can be difficult for a young lad. I think he went out on loan last year as well, and that went okay. So Ralph wouldn't put him in the team if he didn't believe in him. Even if he wants to rotate the squad, if he didn't have belief in him, he wouldn't play him. So I think he did well today, and he's done himself credit, and he'd be pleased with that performance.
Well, another player we weren't necessarily expecting to start today was Shane Long. That was actually the first time he started in the Premier League since Boxing Day last year. He earned himself a standing ovation from the fans when he came off. How did he do for you today, Adam?
Well, if there's a guy that you want when you're down to 10 men and you're going to have to defend from the front and press hard against a very good team, it's Shane Long. I guess that's the criticism of Shane has been he doesn't score enough goals in his career. That has been leveled at him, and I think it's probably fair given his ability and the chances he gets. But the one thing you never ever get with Shane is anything less than 100%. He gives it his all every single time he goes out on the pitch, and when your back's against the wall, he's the kind of guy, if you're in the team, you want to see out on the pitch with you, I think, because that he will chase every single ball, lost cause or otherwise. He will close down. He will work tirelessly. He's like a Duracell bunny out there. He just must be so frustrating. if you think you're Tottenham centre halves and you think down to 10 men, we're going to have time to get our foot on the ball, get our heads up and play out from the back and kind of build steadily. And he's buzzing around you the whole time. It's very, very difficult. And I think it was kind of in the end, a situation that was made for him to shine because it allowed him to do his thing. It wasn't necessarily everybody was expecting him to score a goal. It was what can you offer in terms of your work rate, your passion, your professionalism and your discipline. And those are the things he always offers in absolute spades. So yeah, he got a standing ovation from the crowd and it was fully deserved because he put in a huge shift today.
Well, after today, we move into 2022, and Southampton's first game of the new year will be against Newcastle here at St Mary's. Newcastle were unlucky not to get anything, or not to get a win over Manchester United last night, but still very much one of the favourites to go down, Dean. So what are your early thoughts ahead of that game?
Well, Newcastle have vastly improved under Eddie Howe. They have, so they're a better team. I watched the game last night and they performed very, very well against Manchester United. Again, new managers had an impact. They're playing with more intensity. They're running more. I think there's more organisation. One blessing for Southampton, it looks like Callum Wilson is injured. And it looks like St Maximin is injured. And that is their two major threats. So that's going to be a problem for Newcastle and an advantage to Southampton. So, look, it's a home game. The home record this season is very, very good for Southampton. I'm sure you mentioned it, Steve. The atmosphere today was fantastic. That will carry on into the Newcastle game. And if Southampton play like they did in the first half, with that intensity, with that purpose to win the ball back early, to press and create chances, I think it can be another successful afternoon for Southampton. I'm looking forward to the game because if you look over these three fixtures, Southampton have already got 4 points, and that's impressive. And a total 4 points out of 3 games would have been pretty acceptable, if I'm honest. If Southampton finished with 7 points from it, it's brilliant, and it's been a good end to the year, and it can be a fantastic start to the year for Southampton. And I'm looking forward to the game.
Yeah, most definitely. Dean mentioned there, Adam, that Newcastle have 2 key players out for that match, and I think January the 2nd might be a bit too early for them to get any new big money signings in.
Yeah, I think this might just be a good time to play them, Steve. If you have to play them under Eddie Howe, they are much improved. They look a better team. He's, I think, certainly going to get a lot more out of them in the coming weeks and months, the remainder of the season. and we all probably expect that there will be a few big signings that will come in January to bolster them as well. So they are a better team, but probably they're going to get better. So it is a nice time to play them, especially with Saints being on such great form, with the home support again after the last couple of games. I think everybody's really up for it, and looking onwards and upwards, not really looking over their shoulder. But I think if you're honest, a win against Newcastle is putting huge amounts of daylight between Saints and Newcastle, who are in the bottom three, and will probably pull Saints even further away from the other teams that are in the bottom three. And I think that really, if they could get 7 points from these 3 games, that's an exceptional haul for them. But I think the other thing that does is it really removes the pressure from then on, because they're not safe, obviously, on 24 points, but they are pretty comfortable given they'll have only played 20 games by that point. So I think it's a huge opportunity for Saints. I think it's a game they can and should win. Newcastle are going to be missing some key players. Yes, we know Saints are now going to miss a couple after today, but we've seen the depth they've got, and with players to come back, there's a lot to play for there. So yeah, I think it's a great chance for a win, and couldn't sign off the show without saying it's another good chance for another correct prediction from Dean after his stunner today.
Well, we had to mention it, didn't we? You're both level on points now. What a way to go into the new year.
Well, I think it's more luck than judgment, I think. So I'll take it. I'll go into the new year top of the league with Adam. I'm pleased with that.
Happy days. Happy
days indeed. Well, Adam, Dean, always great fun to have you on the show with us. A very happy new year to you both. Thanks for your analysis today, and always. And a very warm thank you to all those of you getting in touch online as well. We will read a few more comments out before we say goodbye. Moses on Facebook is a happy man. He says, Saints, my pride. Richard Martin, hello to you. He says, very proud of the great performance against a good Spurs side. We have a comment here from Adrian Pascal Murray as well. He says it was an awesome team performance today. It certainly was. A comment here from Hassan, an amazing point under the circumstances, showed even greater resilience, passion and effort than Sunday. The fans were amazing. And Tom Blake has said a fantastic point. Can't say more than that, Steve.
You certainly can't. Southampton finished the year with a draw here at St Mary's against Spurs, in a fantastic performance. Thank you so much to everyone for supporting us on Saints Live through 2021. We'll be back on Sunday the 2nd of January when Newcastle will be the visitors here at St Mary's. Have a great new year.
Happy New Year.